Today, you're going to learn everything you need to know about transitions in CSS. First, we're going to talk about what these even are. Then we're going to talk about how to use them. And then we're going to get into some examples of them and some other useful things to know. And we're going to use this webpage by W3 Schools. That is a resource that I definitely trust on this, just because they provide some really good examples that will be easy to understand here. So first off, what are CSS transitions? Well, CSS transitions allow you to change property values smoothly over a given duration. So, what does that mean? Well, let's say that you have a kind of box on your web page and that box is 100 pixels wide. But when a user hovers over it, you want to change that box to be 150 pixels to kind of give them some feedback that they are indeed hovering over it. Well, instead of just like in a split second going from 100 to 150 pixels, you can actually use this transition property to smoothly transition it to 100 to 150 pixels. And you can set how long of a duration it takes. So when they start hovering, how long does it take to get from 100 to 150 pixels? And then you can also set a timing function. So this is like if you want it to ease in to 150 pixels, if you want it to ease out, and different things like that. And you can also set a delay as well. So when they hover over it, it doesn't automatically do it right away. It waits a second and then it transitions. Okay. And there are definitely some use cases for that as well. So how do you use CSS transitions? Well, to create a transition effect, you must specify two things. The CSS property you want to add an effect to, so like a width or a height or a color, something like that, and the duration of the effect. And this says if the duration part is not specified, the transition will have no effect because the default value is 0. So it will not transition smoothly because it will just have that transition occur automatically without any duration that you've set. So in this example here, they have a div in which they kind of create like a red box with it, in which they have the width and height set to 100 pixels and the background color to red. And then here they use the transition property in which they say, okay, the first thing that you kind of set for the transition property is what property you want to set this transition for. So here they're setting it for the width. So you can see how these line up right here. So it's saying when this width changes, I want that change to occur, and this is the duration, the second value it passes to the transition property over 2 seconds. So it's saying I want to transition the width property here across 2 seconds when this changes. And then here they're saying, okay, when we hover over this box, the width is supposed to be 300 pixels. So this transition, when you hover over it, it's going to say, okay, this width is going to change from 100 to 300 pixels here. And I want that to occur over 2 seconds. And if we go try this here, what you're going to see is that we have this red box here. We have the width when we hover over it changing from 100 here to 300. And then the transition property here, we're going to transition the width across 2 seconds. So if I hover over this, you see that it transitions from 100 to 300 pixels over the time course of about 2 seconds. And then just so you can see, if I change this to, let's go 6 seconds here, and I make sure to run that, the transition occurs a lot more slowly because it transitions from 100 to 300 pixels over the time course of 6 seconds. Okay? So that is like the most basic fundamental way that transitions work, but there's definitely some more things you need to know about it. So for one, you can change several properties at once here. So here, now they're using the transition here, but they're saying, okay, I want to transition the width across 2 seconds, but then they put a comma here and they also put the height across 4 seconds. So they're saying they both want to transition the width and the height across these different times. And if we look at this example, so this has the same code right here, width and height, 2 and 4 seconds. If I hover over this, you see the width and height are both transitioned smoothly here. So you can separate your different transitions here by commas and keep adding more transitions. Now, you can also use the all keyword, and that will transition all properties for 4 seconds. So if I use transition all 4 seconds, anything that changes, it's going to transition that across 4 seconds. And you see now they both run smoothly together because I'm transitioning both the width and the height across 4 seconds. All right. Now there's other things you can do here. So you can specify the speed curve of the transition. And you do this by using the transition timing function property. And what this does is you can set this to ease, linear, ease in, ease out, ease in and out. And then you can also set a cubic Bezier. So for ease, it is going to have a slow start, then fast, then end slowly. So the transition, it's going to move quickly, it's going to slow down, and then end slowly. And then linear, it's going to be the same speed from start to end. Ease in is it's going to have a slow start, but it's going to speed up at the end. The opposite will be true for ease out. And then ease in and out specifies a transition effect with a slow start and end. And then cubic Bezier lets you define your own values for what you want the ease to be. And these are some examples of linear, ease, ease in, ease out. And we'll just look at these really quick. So this top one is linear. You can see that this transition here, it just goes the same speed from start to finish. Ease, you can see it has a little bit different speeds throughout. Ease in, starts slow, ends a little quicker. Ease out, starts quicker and ends slower. Ease in and out has a little bit of that different curve across the board there, okay? And they set this with the transition timing function. Now, moving back here, you can also delay the transition effect, in which you can use the transition delay property. And I'm having a hard time right now saying transition. And you could use that property that specifies a delay in seconds for the transition effect. And the following example has a delay of 1 second. So if we go to this example, you can see I set a transition delay here for my width property. And if I look at this, you can see I hover on it for a little bit. And then after about a second, it starts the transition. So it's not occurring right away, as you can see there. All right. So you can also set a delay for when you want this transition to occur. Now you can also use transition plus transform. So this is saying that you want to transition the width across 2 seconds, the height across 2 seconds, and you also want the transform to transition across 2 seconds. And here, the transform here, it's wanting to rotate this 180 degrees once we hover over it. And the transition property can control how we want this to transform here. So we want this rotation to occur over 2 seconds. So if I hover over this, you can see that the transition rotates 180 degrees across 2 seconds. And isn't that kind of cool that you could do, like, I don't know, I think that's kind of neat that you could do that all in just CSS right there. I want to go into the shorthand of transition. So earlier we were setting all these properties individually. So transition timing function, we were setting that to linear, transition duration, but you can actually control all these within just this transition property. Okay. And the way you can do that is just separating them all by spaces. So when I'm saying transition here, I want to transition my width property across the time course of 2 seconds. So the duration is 2 seconds. And then here, this is where I can set my timing function. I'm setting it to linear right here. And then this is going to be the delay. So rather than needing to write all these properties out, you can put them all just separated by a space within your transition property. So if we look at this here, you can see this is the very same code, width, 2 seconds, linear, 1 second. If I hover over this here, it delays about 1 second, and it just does a linear transition across the time course of 2 seconds. And then I can also, of course, change these values to ease, and I can do like 3 seconds of a delay. I can make it last 6 seconds, and then we'll actually use all of our properties. And I could separate this by commas as well and do like height and do another shorthand property there. But we'll transition all properties, and we'll also change the background color here. And we will change that to, let's go with blue. And then let's also change the height here. And let's do 500 pixels. Let's make sure to run that so it works. And then if I hover over it, there should be a 3-second delay. And then it should start transitioning here for all those properties across the time course of 6 seconds with a nice little ease effect there. And then if I go off, there's going to be a 3-second delay here, and then it'll transition back to the color of red. So that is how CSS transitions work. Hopefully you learned something from this, and I'll see you in that next one.